So I took a break for about a week, but I'm back now, so this should be good. I finally sent my manuscript off to my editor. So yeah, that's been kind of a huge part of like why I haven't really been doing anything else, because I was finishing up the edits that I needed to make before sending it off to her. Today's video, I'm going to talk about beta readers, why we need them, what are beta readers even, why would you need them, and yeah, that's what today's video is about. So it's kind of snowing outside. Never mind, it's just rain. Beta readers. What are they? Beta readers are people who read your work and then give feedback based on that work. Either they're focusing really heavily on like the grammar and things like that for your manuscript, or they're focusing on like the story overall. Ideally, you want them to be doing both if they're so interested. And basically they're a bunch of people. I put a poll online to get some feedback, and I got a couple of strangers, and then I went to a couple of the D&D groups that I'm part of, and that's where most of my readers came from, which is fine. They're all going to be within the genre love that my manuscript is in. So that's kind of what you want. You want somebody that's got like an interest in what you're reading or in what you're writing, because then it's easier to like know if this kind of thing gels with your target audience. So I get a couple people from Instagram, and then I've got a majority of the rest of them from my D&D groups, which is really great. Most of them are strangers, but I've been playing with them for a little while, so they'll at least be able to like connect with me, and I've requested super honest feedback, so I'm hoping that that's still the case. But basically with beta readers, what they do is they read your work, and then they give you feedback. They tell you like what's working in the story, what's not, and you can request as in-depth as people are willing to give, or kind of like broad statements. I really like this, I really didn't. Even though I would caution against that, because it's not entirely helpful. Like, you want, like, of course you want to hear like, oh, I really loved it, or oh, it kind of like didn't vibe with me, or whatever. Like, you want to know those sort of things, especially if they're readers within your genre. But then you want them to kind of expand on the reasons why that they liked it or didn't like it. Like, that's kind of the core purpose of beta readers. And then at the end, I've requested that when my book finally comes to launch, that all of my beta readers will provide me a review when it launches on like Goodreads or whatever. And all of them have subsequently agreed to that, which is really great. That's something that you want when you finally launch your book, is a bunch of reviews when it first comes out, so it retains some sort of popularity on like the free advertising, depending on where you decide to publish it. With that being said, how to get beta readers? Reach out to people you know. Reach out to people you know that are going to be interested in this genre. And if you're so bold and daring, reach out to a couple of people that you know for sure are not interested in the genre that you're writing. Because they'll generally be the most harsh critics. They will give you the most direct feedback. And you want them to be also kind of a friend, so that they understand that this is like the body of work that you're writing in. They're not just a full stranger that you're sending like a romance book to, and they're like, whoa, like this isn't my thing, dude. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. So somebody that's like understanding of what you're doing, that really wants to give you some really good feedback for it. And then you can go from there, because I've gotten a couple of those who have not been super interested in the work that I've done, and they loved it. So that was cool. What I did for a couple of them is when I created a form in Google Forms, detailing a bunch of questions about like, what kind of books do you like to read? Like what genre are you in? What area interests you? How long would this kind of book take you to read? Because it's 99,000 words. It's a lot. And most people that responded, because I did preface that the book is a high fantasy, I prefaced that the kind of storyline that they'd be following, and most of them like agreed that it would be something that they'd be interested in, which is fine. Like, that's really great. And so now I've got about a dozen people who are beta reading my book, which seems like a lot, and it probably is a lot. I don't know. Like, I think the recommendation is like 5 people at max for beta reads, but also your book changes all the time too as you're editing it, and so it kind of depends on when you decide to start the process that you get into the beta read. And I did mine, I set mine up. I started reaching out to people in January, like late January, February, and then through all of February so far is when I've been trying to garner those beta reads, because I knew that I was sending my manuscript in February and it would be done by March. So when it's done in March is when they're going to get the like polished manuscript. So it's going to be the cleanest that it's been. It's going to have been seen by a developmental editor. Like, it's going to be a really proper story that they can read. It's not like a first draft that they're like, ugh, this sucks. So if they're like, oh, this sucks at the third iteration of editing, then we've got a problem. But mostly, I anticipate it to be really constructive, and that's the goal of a beta read. You want really constructive, really, like, me personally, I'm looking for really content-based reviews. I want people to tell me how they feel about the story. I want them to kind of garner conversations and create this sort of like discussion with me on like what they think is working, what they think is not working as much, like where they feel that more information could be placed, where they feel like less information could be placed. And then through all of that, if there is a really common theme among all of them in a certain spot or a certain character or a certain theme, then I can go back and like really home in on that specific thing and fix it. Because I don't anticipate everyone to have the same view of the book at all. I've had a lot of people, well, a lot. I've had 3 people presently read my book. One of which is my mother. But a friend of mine that read it dislikes one character that another person who has read it loves. So that's funny. Like, and everybody's going to react differently. And that's what I think is super cool. But what you're looking for in beta reads truly is that common thread of this isn't working. Which is good, because then you still have a chance, and this is why I've talked in previous videos about especially when you're self-publishing and you're doing this all on your own, trying to figure this out, give yourself enough time between like when you want to start and when you want to publish. I still have I'm still well within the like 3 to 4 month time frame I gave myself for really major edits, really like honed edits, and like any sort of like last minute just kind of rethinking the way that the story should be told, in the case that a majority of the kind of people that I want to be reading my book don't enjoy it. Based on what I've gotten so far, and I've been super lucky, I've had a couple of really amazing people read it so far, it seems like I am doing okay, but we'll see. I'll find out in like April when everybody gives me back their feedback whether or not they liked it. That's pretty much it. Like, you want to reach out either through social media or like any of like the community groups you're in, or there's a lot of people who you can pay to be beta readers on like Fiverr or Upwork or anything like that. So you can garner reviews if you don't have anybody like in your present circle that's interested in what you're writing, or you're like super nervous about having anybody know like what you're writing or knowing that it's you or anything like that. And that's totally cool. Like, there are options out there that you can go and reviews, so you can tailor your work to the kind of individuals that are interested in the story that you're writing. But it's gathering. I have, like I said, I have about a dozen people who are doing this, and I don't know if that's the right answer, but for me, I liked the idea of having a really wide array of voices talking to me about my book, because I've had such a small circle so far talking to me about it, who all have given me really great feedback on it and really interesting like points that have helped shape the story. But also, like, now I get to see if there's still a common thread somewhere, that something is missing or that something like doesn't work. So I'll see if that is cool. But I'd recommend probably around like 5 people. You don't really want an even number. I technically have like 13 people, but one of them has already technically read the story, so yeah, I'd recommend about 5 people. If you're so bold and you want to do more people. Like, that's great. It's just going to be a matter of managing that amount of people. Oh, and another thing. One thing that I did with both my editor and all of the beta readers was I offered an NDA that, like, my editor absolutely had to sign, but my beta readers didn't have to sign. But if they didn't sign it, they weren't going to be part of the beta read. They'd be considered a candidate for an ARC read, which is an advanced reader copy instead. So protect your work. Make sure that if it's not a bunch of people that you like super trust, like if they're very well within your circle and you know them super well and you're like, yeah, I would trust them with my life, I don't have to worry about this, I just want their feedback, cool, that's super awesome, and I'm really happy for you to do that. With anybody else, even like friends, I have a couple of friends in this group that I know more personally outside of just being like part of the D&D group that I'm in, and I still had them be like, could you sign an NDA? It's not that I don't trust you. I just want the record keeping to make sure that I have everybody all on the same page, and they're all really cool about it. So that's been fun, and that's been good. And it's really nerve-wracking. I don't know what's going to come out of this. I don't know if anybody's going to like it. I don't know. Like, I'm hopeful people will like it. But it's a nerve-wracking experience sharing your work out there with literally anyone, even if it's just like sharing with a friend. It's like, oh, here's this thing that I've been working on that's now super important to me. I hope you don't hate it. it's pretty scary. So when you get to this point, when you get to the beta reader point, I'm planning on, at least as I'm taking this video, I'm planning on having sample links below of the form that I created, so you have kind of a template in order to start your own beta read form requests. And I also put out the first email that I sent to all of my participants, just kind of outlining like what the process was going to look like, a synopsis of what they were going to be reading, a schedule based on how I was going to request feedback from them, and when it was going to be due, when the book finally launches. And then at the end of this, I've promised all of my readers, if they're interested, if they absolutely don't want anything to do with it anymore, I understand, it'll suck, but it'll be okay. That I've promised each of them a paperback or a hardcover book, signed by yours truly. So they have a commemorative token in thanks for all of the work that they've done in this process, and just in a general thank you for your support. And I hope that you share my story everywhere, because that's the goal. Share the story, tell people. But don't be afraid, get out there. If you have any more tips or tricks about getting beta readers, or if you have questions about more specific nuances about getting beta readers, because I think I've covered pretty much kind of exactly how it is. It shouldn't be this big scary process. I know putting yourself out there is big and scary, but just doing this process isn't as big and scary once you realize that all it is just getting feedback before you're officially done with your book. This is, I would say, at least for me and the way that I chose to go about it. I know some people go with beta readers really early on in the process. I only did 2 for really early on in the process for like heavy edits and things like that, heavy content like input and such. And now that it's been morphed and cleaned and edited, well, it's going to be edited. It'll be done in March. Now I can show more people a very polished version, and then anything that doesn't work from there, then I know that that's something that I have to work on within the time frame that I've given myself to make those edits. And I don't necessarily have to go and get another slew of beta readers unless you want to, unless you really absolutely want to. But just keep in mind that everyone's going to read your story in a different way. Absolutely everyone. When I was looking for editors, oh my goodness, the amount, the array of sample edits that I got was incredible. I had, like, when you post to an Upwork about like a really big body of work, even like a small one, I've seen a lot of people try to, it doesn't matter, people are looking for work. So when you post something and you're like, I'm looking for an editor for this body of work, and they're like, cool, let me submit like a sample edit if you want to give me you know, like 2,000 words, double spaced, whatever. I did that for a good handful of people that submitted because I just, you know, I was like, oh, I'm kind of interested in, you know, the background that you did. I'm kind of interested in the work that you've been doing. Like, it seems like that we might be a good fit. I just want to see like a sample edit. Not 2 people. No 2 people in the entirety of the submissions commented on the same things. No one. Absolutely no one. But that's what I mean. Like, your beta readers are going to be the same way. They're not going to have the same exact views on everything. And if they do, that's something to pay attention to. If 3 people have very strong opinions on like this one thing not working, then you know, oh, that might be kind of a pretty common theme among a much larger majority of readers. Might be something I want to reconsider, might be something that maybe they just don't have enough explanation for, and then you need to put it in the book to make it a little more clear as to why this element exists. You don't have to necessarily axe it, you don't have to get rid of it, you just have to be able to explain it and show that it has relevance into the story. That's it. That's all that beta reading is. That's literally the whole process, is just find some people who want to read it, who are willing to sign an NDA to keep your work safe, and that's it. I hope this was helpful. If you have any more questions or concerns or any more topics that you'd like me to discuss as I go through this process, next is probably going to be cover design. I think, if I can get to an art scanning place, because my cover has a watercolor painting that was done by an artist whom I will name as I release the cover. So follow me again on Instagram if you have not already, so you can find out more about that, because it's going to be very cool, very exciting. Yeah, so my next video, planning on having it be cover design. If it's not, it'll be in a soon-ish one. But I hope y'all have a great Saturday is when this is coming out. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.